How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and we're here with another of our Understanding How to Build series, where we go over each leader in a given set to help you understand how to build it to suit you and your playstyle. Now, we've done the dark side of the blue leaders, now we're on to the light side, and that is going to start us off with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So if you're interested in getting some help to understand how to build it to suit you and your playstyle, then feel free to keep watching. And also remember, we do not give deck lists, we just give handy advice and help to help you build it to you better rather than just net decking. So, without the way, do remember to like, comment, subscribe. It keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop. And also by clicking the notification bell, you can get alerts to when my videos do drop so you can watch them there and then, or at a later time that suits you best. So, with that all over, let's go ahead and get into the video and check out and understand how to build Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, starting off with the leader, like we always like to do, it's better to go over the leader first and help understand what is, because this is a leader-based game, and most decks are built because of the leader that they want to play. And for Obi-Wan, he is a 6-resource deploy leader, so he doesn't deploy up until you get 6 resources, so that's normally turn 5, you resource every turn, or even earlier if you do ramp. And he is Obi-Wan Kenobi, the patient mentor. And his effect is all regarding healing. So his effect is all about healing up units, and when he's deployed, it kind of improves a little bit from there. So he isn't one that kind of changes drastically from when he is deployed, but he does change a bit, and he just basically improves his original effect. And he is a leader that has the traits Force, Jedi, and Republic. So he has got benefits of those. There's some more benefits of Jedi in this set. There's some more benefits of Republic, since that's like a one that's, well, not original, that hasn't new come out, but is more improved, and also a lot of Force stuff that we can actually benefit with Obi-Wan as well. So the effect of Obi-Wan is to heal damage from units, because his action when he's in the leader area is to tap him and heal 1 damage from a unit. It could be your opponent's or yours, but normally you're going to heal yours, and it just means you can basically exchange damage, like attack into other units to take him out, and then slowly heal the damage off to kind of replenish it. And when he does deploy, which is at 6 or more resources, he comes down as a 4/7, so pretty solid stats. That's like Boba level stats, pretty good there. Good amount of attack, good amount of health, and he just comes down a turn later at 6. But when he does deploy, he comes down as a Sentinel, so that means that if your opponent wants to go into any of your leaders in the same arena, be in the ground arena, or to your base, they have to get through Obi-Wan first. And remember, if you do have multiple Sentinels in the same arena, your opponent can choose which one, because they have to attack a Sentinel, but they can choose which one they want to. And now Obi-Wan's effect is still about healing, but is now on a different trigger, being to attack. So on attack, you heal 1 damage from a unit, and if you do heal a damage from a unit, you then deal 1 damage to a different unit. And remember, if there's only 2 units, basically remember, even if there's just 2 units on play, so you've only got 2 units yourself, and there's nothing else to play, just 2 of your units, if you would heal damage from one of those units, you have to deal to the other unit, because you have to deal with damage to a different unit after you heal off 1. If there's only 1 unit, say it's just him in play, and he's got damage on, you swing, he can heal the damage, but there's nothing else to put on, because he can't put on the same unit, it's got to be a different one. So do keep that in mind. But that is Obi-Wan, so he's got a good benefit from like Force, Jedi, and Republic, nice bit of healing, comes down as Sentinel as well, and with some solid stats. And like with all leaders, well, almost all leaders, because remember Luke and Vader didn't get one, they have a showcase in the set as well. So every leader in set 3 has a showcase, even the starter deck ones. And this is Obi-Wan's, where he looks like more Force Jesus, which is pretty cool. Now this is a pretty nice one, more like more realistic than some of the other ones, which is pretty cool, but a pretty nice one there. But remember, showcases are basically just different arts. So art is always subjective, so if you do like it, it's fair enough, and if you don't, that's also fair enough. But this is a pretty nice one if you're interested in getting the showcase of the leader. Now we move on to the bases, because in this game, you're not only just having a leader, you also have a base, because they give you your aspects. And in this game, currently, as a set 3, there are 2 types of bases you can have. You can have a rare base, which has less health than the non-rare bases, or the common bases, and also provides you effects. So lower health compensates with a effect. It can either be one that triggers by using action, one that triggers on a certain action, or when something specific happens, or one that's got a continuous effect. And then the other bases are the common bases, and these are just basic bases, 30 health, no effect, just different arts. And currently there's no difference between which one of those you choose outside the aspect, because there's no benefit to the location, but it's just picking which art you like in that aspect. And for the bases, as I said, we got some rare bases, and set 2 didn't have any rare bases. That was quite nice when it came to pulling cards from packs, because you didn't have a rare base take up one of your rare card slots. But in set 1 and set 3, we had rare bases, and in each of those sets, we had 1 per color. So now, given that there's 2 sets of rare bases, we've got 2 rare bases in each aspect, being Vigilance for blue, Command for green, Aggression for red, and yellow for Cunning. And each of these ones, with the set 1 bases at least, all of them add 25 health base, so they're all 5 less on their health base, provided you with epic action, be an action you can take once per game where you can employ this effect. And they all don't really affect leaders, because they always got the kind of trait of non-leader, but the blue one, Security Complex, allows you to give a shield token to any non-leader unit, so that's pretty nice. Energy Conversion Lamp allowed you to play a card that costs 6 or less and give it ambush for that phase, so it can attack straight away the same turn it's played, but you do have to pay the cost of the card to do. Remember that, you don't get to play it for free. And then Tarkin Town allows you to deal 3 damage to a damaged non-leader unit, so kind of finish something off you were quite, which is a little bit shy of taking out, that's not a leader. And then Jealousy allowing you to give a non-leader unit minus 4 power for that phase, kind of weakening something in its power. So not too bad. Out of those ones, they're mostly used. Like Target Town is still fairly used. Same with Edge Griffin being probably used the most out of those. Security Complex seeing some play, and Jealousy not really seeing much play. Very, very little play. And then with set 3, we got the new bases. We got Powell City for blue, Droid Manufactory for green, Shadow Collector Camp for red, and then Petronaki Arena for yellow. And these ones have a different effect where they don't just cost you action using epic action. They have a trigger at a certain kind of point in the game, or they are continuous. So Powell City and Petronaki Arena are the highest health rare bases, be it 26 health, and they both have a continuous effect where for each leader you control, they gain a certain amount of boost to the stats. So Powell City gives an extra 1 health to leaders, while Petronaki Arena gives an extra 1 power to your leaders. So they're pretty handy. Not the most amazing, but still pretty cool. And then for the other 2, they both trigger when you deploy your leader. So when you do deploy it, they trigger this, and you've got Droid Manufactory for green, which has the lowest health in the game, being 24, but when you deploy a leader, you create 2 Battle Droid tokens, and this could be handy for the 2 new keywords in set 3, being Exploit, where you can defeat some of your units to make a card cheaper when it plays. And then you've got Coordinate, which requires you to have 3 or more units on play to have the effect it's connected to trigger. So having 2 Battle Droid tokens mean with the unit you want to have that has Coordinate, it can now trigger. And with Exploit, you can then defeat these 2 droid tokens to then make something cost a little bit less when you play it. So pretty cool. Not amazing, more niche. And then you got Shadow Collective Camp. So this has the same health as the set 1 bases at 25 health. And its effect is when you deploy it, you draw a card. Nothing amazing. Like, card draw isn't the most crazy thing in this game. You don't have much in terms of the beginning of the game in terms of draw power, but this can get you an extra draw if you want to. Like the old rare bases are more competitive focus, whereas the new rare bases are a bit more focused for alternative formats like the Twin Suns. And then, like I said, there are some common bases as well, the vanilla bases, which are just all 30 health bases with a different location, different art. And these ones are just if you want the maximum amount of health and don't need those extra actions the rare bases offer, then you just go with these ones. They give you maximum health to survive a little better. And these ones, since there's no current reason to choose a certain location in the game so far, you just pick the favorite arts. And these ones are more preferred arts for the game for the bases of each aspect. Now that we've covered the leader and bases, we then go into the aspects, because these are the ones that are on mostly all cards. There's some cards that are aspectless, but these are the aspects that you have access in the game, and there are 6 of them. There are the 4 color ones, which is Vigilance for blue, green for command, red for aggression, and yellow for cunning, which are on most cards in the game. And then you have the other 2, which you have at least one of them on all the leaders in the game. And these are ones that also can be attached to one of the other aspects as well. And these are Villainy, which is black, and Heroism, which is white. Now, you might be wondering about these aspects and what they kind of mean. Well, they all have a different kind of way to play and things like that. So for each different one, they've got a kind of different function, and we'll go over each of them. So we got Vigilance being the blue one. This allows you to play defensively with ability to heal damage, remove dangerous units from play, and protect your base from enemy attacks. This aspect is perfect for players who like patient playstyles that can endure even the deadliest assaults and basically just survive. So if you want to play, if that sounds good for you, probably blue is a good one for you, and this is what exactly Obi-Wan is in. So Obi-Wan gives you this aspect. Then you have command, which is more of like a ramping aspect. So this one allows you to accelerate your resources and call upon lots of units or strengthen the ones you have in play. And this is an aspect that's a perfect choice for players who want to overwhelm their opponent with massive war presence. So if you want to go with ramp to kind of deploy units a little bit earlier than the actual normal deploy, or basically just get more resources to play more things or bigger things quicker, then this is a good one for you. Now we move on to the next one, aggression, which is the red aspect, and this kind of is given in its name. It's a very aggressive aspect, because this one allows you to attack with maximum efficiency and dish out loads of damage, and this aspect is a perfect fit for players who prefer fast-paced fire playstyles that break through defenses and hurl damage towards your opponent at all costs and to achieve victory. So if you like a very aggressive decks like aggro and things like that, where it's basically just throw out damage willy-nilly, aggression could be the one for you. And it brings the last of the coloured ones being Cunning, which is yellow. Now this is a like jack of all trades one, because it allows you to adapt to any situation on the fly with powerful immediate effects and lots of tools for disrupting your opponent's game plan. Now this is an aspect that is a perfect fit for players who prefer to respond quickly to any problems and have an answer for almost anything that your opponent tries to throw at you. So if that's one that sounds like it's interesting to you, then it could be the one you go for the aspect. And that brings us to villainy and heroism. So as I said, these are ones that are, one of them is always on a leader. So all leaders have one of these two. They can either have the heroism one, which is one that wants to fight for peace and justice with cards that featured in most the protagonists of the Star Wars series. Or you have the villainy ones, like villainy is on one, which is ones that want to battle for ultimate power with cards that feature the antagonists of the Star Wars series. Now, with Obi-Wan, he gets heroism because he's one of the protagonists, and heroism is an aspect that is great for players who want to support and protect each other while pressing the attack. And like I said, is often paired with another aspect on cards, but there are cards that are just heroism cards. And then villainy is one that allows you to command huge armies or wield powerful destructive effects. And similar to heroism, it's one that's paired with other aspects on the card, but also comes with just those aspects as well. So those are the different aspects you have in the game, and with Obi-Wan, he provides you with the Vigilance 1 to blue, and he gives you Heroism for the good side of the game. Now, along with this, since you have to have a base with a leader, you will have 3 aspects, and since Obi-Wan gives you the Heroism 1 and Vigilance, when combined with one of the 4 top aspect bases, you get these different combinations. And there are 4 different combos, so you can either go with a blue base and Obi-Wan, a double blue, as your aspects. Then if you go for a green base command, you get access to blue-green. If you go for an aggression base, you get access to blue-red. And if you go for a cunning base, you get access to blue-yellow. And these are aspects that allow you to, not allow you to play, because you can put any card in your deck, play any card, but these are the ones that, depending on the aspects, decide whether or not you get the aspect penalty. Because there's such a thing called the aspect penalty, because like I said, you can play any card in your deck and play any card in the game, but when it comes to actually playing them out, then the aspect penalty is something that will incur additional costs. Because what it wants to do with the aspect penalty is if a card you want to play doesn't have any aspects that matches what's on your leader and base, then you have to pay an extra 2 per aspect that doesn't match. So in this example here, we've got the kind of a little table here to show you, because this is something I improved on from the last series to help show it better than just explaining it. So with this leader combination of Obi-Wan with a green base, we have access to the white, blue, and green aspects. So Heroism, Vigilance, and Command. Now, if you want to play a card that has all the aspects on a match what's on your leader base, so it could either be just blue, green, or white, or a combination of blue, green, or white, blue, or white, green, then you just play it out for its actual printed cost. But then if just one of the aspects on the card you want to play doesn't match on your leader, then you have to pay an extra 2 for that resource. So for example, if you want to play a card with this combination of leader base, a red, yellow, or black card, or a card that has one of them but doesn't have the other, so like a white, red, or white, yellow, where it has the white one covered but doesn't have the red or yellow, or a black, blue, or black, green one, where the blue or green is covered but the black one isn't, you have to pay an extra 2 to cover that cost of the one that isn't shared. Now, also remember that the aspects only provide one of that aspect. So the heroism, each of the three aspects on your leader and base only provide one. So with this combination, you have one white aspect, one blue, and one green. So if you wanted to play a double blue card that has two blue aspects on it, the blue aspect on Obi-Wan will cover one of the blue aspects. Because you don't have the second one, you have to pay an extra 2 to cover the extra blue aspect. So if you want to play a double blue or double green card with this aspect combination of leader and base, you have to pay an extra 2 on top of the cost. And now if two aspects on the card don't match, you have to pay an extra 4 on total for the cost of the card, because two aspects don't match, that's 2 per one. So for an example here, if you want to play a free cost card that had either black red, black yellow, or double red or double yellow on it, it would normally cost 3 if those aspects matched. Because neither of them match, you have to pay an extra 4 on top, meaning the card that would normally cost 3 will now cost 7, which is a hefty cost. But don't be discouraged about having to only play cards that have aspects to match, because as shown in the game since the beginning, there have been some times where people have played cards out of aspect in the deck because the effect is worth putting in despite the aspect penalty. A good example being Vigilance, being a 4-cost double blue event that people will still play without having a blue base along with a blue leader, so they can still play it because it's such a good card, it's worth paying the extra 2 on top of it. So do note that. And now that we've covered the aspects, it's time to go over the ratios, because like in any game, you can have a certain amount of copies of any given card, and in Star Wars, the maximum amount of copies you can have of a card is 3. So with cards, you can either have 3 copies, 2 copies, or 1 copies, and 1 copy. And with each different amount, there's a reason for it. Like there's a reason to run a full play set, just 1 or just 2 copies of a card, and I'm going to go over that to explain what those kind of reasons were, or what are. So for 3 copies of card, this is usually the ratio to help maximize the likelihood the desired card will be in your hand when needed, and examples are being cards to play on the first turn or cards you want to see multiples over the course of the game. So for example I've put here is General's Blade, because this is a very powerful upgrade. It's a 3-cost upgrade. It gives an extra 3/3 to the stats of the unit it's played on. Can't attach to a vehicle. If you attach to a Jedi, which Obi-Wan is, then when he attacks, the next unit you will play this phase costs 2 less. And is in the aspect where you would ramp as well, so you can maybe get Obi-Wan out a little bit earlier than normal. And then as soon as you deploy Obi-Wan, you can slap this on him, which then turns him from a 4/7 unit to a 7/10, which is hefty. And now every time he swings while he's on board and equip this, you then get to play something. The next thing you play costs 2 less. You can play a bigger thing 2 turns earlier potentially, which is really cool. Or even more things out to basically go wide on the board. And this is a perfect one because it's, when you deploy a leader, your leader's always going to be available to deploy as soon as it hits the resource requirement to be able to play out and put this on to make him a lot bigger, more of a threat, and harder to deal with. Next, we have 2 copies of a card. So this is usually the ratio for cards that aren't great to draw early in the game, but you still want to go through multiple copies over the course of the game. So you don't want to have too many and see it too many too early, but later in the game you still want to draw into them and use them. And good examples of this are being boss cards or high costing cards. So I've put here, probably for every single episode in the series, is Rivals Full, because it's a perfect example where it's a card that's very high costing, so you don't want to draw too many early in the game because they're not going to be able to be, you're not going to be playing them. But as such a powerful effect, you want it because it's one of the few cards that can just straight up take out a leader. Because a lot of effects, when it comes to defeating cards, usually have a requirement, either a big restriction or can hit non-leader cards and give a less restriction. So, for example, you've got things like Takedown, which can hit any unit, but the requirement of it for being a 4-cost card is defeating anything that's a 5 health or less, which some leaders out of the way, some aren't, but it is what it is. But whereas Rivals 4 is a 6-costing card or a high-costing card, but it can defeat any unit, even leaders. So this one might not have 2 copies because you want to have too many open early. So hopefully you see one of the copies later in the game when you put it deploy, so you can take out the leader using this. And then that brings us to the last example, being 1 copies of a card, so single copies of a card. Now this is usually the ratio for cards that are added to a deck specifically in order to counter a specific situation. And my example that I probably put in all the videos of this as well is the example being the card Restock, which is usually added to decks to help counter hard control decks. This is because with hard control, they're more trying to take control of the game and focus on controlling the game throughout. And since they're trying to focus on control and don't really try to attack you or push damage or be aggressive anyway, they likely try to win the game, which only win the game in this Star Wars is to deal enough damage to your opponent's base to reach their health total, so deal 30 damage to a 30 health base. And if you get to the end of the game and you don't have any more cards to draw for your deck, for every card you can't draw during the resupply phase, then you take 3 damage for each one. So if you can't draw one of the 2 cards, you take 3 damage. If you can't draw both the cards, you take 6. So a hard control deck will usually try to get you to the point where you're milling out, decked out, and start taking damage because you can't draw cards to kind of win the game and have that damage be the way that wins. And this is a great way to kind of prevent that because it allows you to choose 4 cards from your discard pile, any 4, put at the bottom of the deck, and with how the game works, you can put itself back to the bottom of your deck as well as one of those 4 cards, so you can keep repeating it over and over again. This allows you then to avoid taking that cantrell damage and help avoid that, so hard control decks have to then try and actually push damage rather than rely on that. So hopefully that's helped you understand how the ratios work and when it is best to have 3, 2, or 1 copies of a card. And now we'll get a look into the aspects for the game, for Obi-Wan's kind of options. So the first one let's start off with is double aspect, because it's one where you're sacrificing a whole different aspect to have access to these 9 cards. Every aspect has currently, I think, 9 double aspect cards as a set 3, because they've had 3 each set. And when you go double aspect, you essentially sacrifice a whole different aspect. So in terms of one, you sacrifice having it all the cards in command, cunning, and aggression to have access to just vigilance cards, along with the heroism side of each of them and just heroism cards to have access to these 9 double aspect cards instead of one of the other aspects. And sometimes it's worth it. In set 1, every leader every aspect had only 1 leader that was decent enough, not amazing, but decent enough to run in double aspect. But now we've got a lot more options in just vigilance and double aspects. Every leader has the option to go double aspect if they want to try it out. Now, double blue is a pretty good one. It's probably better on the darker side, but you can still do it very well on the heroic side. You can access some pretty nice cards. Like from set 1, you got Bendu, Protector of Vigilance, probably the stronger ones on double aspects, giving you a big Sentinel, which Obi-Wan is. Protector being an upgrade to give Sentinel, or Vigilance as well being a card that gives that every aspect has one of these, named after the aspect themselves, 4-cost event that gives you 4 options. You can choose any 2 among them and use those effects. So pretty nice and powerful. And for set 2, we got Sugi Second Chance and Midnight Repairs, being cards that Sugi being a pretty nice statted card with pretty decent effects. Second Chance being a pretty hefty upgrade that allows you to, as the name suggests, give a second chance to a unit, because you can only put on a non-leader, but can bring it back after it's been removed or been defeated. And then Midnight Repairs being a big amount of healing for such a low cost, at eating 8 damage for 2 resources among your units. It's pretty nice there. And then with set 3, the double blue cards aren't really that impressive. They're pretty poor, because you got Finn being a pretty decent side unit at a 3 cost, 3/4. But its effect isn't amazing, just basically allowing you to choose any specifically unique unit and make it take 1 less damage during this phase. You got Duchess Champion being a 4-cost 1/8, so pretty poor power but pretty high bulk. That gains Sentinel if your opponent controls 3 or more resources. So if units. And if your opponent controls 2 or less, this just becomes a weak unit that's got a lot of health that your opponent can just ignore. But if they got 3 or more, then they have to go through it, which even then it doesn't do much damage back. And your Equalize, which this is not a great event. It's a 3-cost event that allows you to give -2/2 to a unit, and then if they control more units than you can give another different unit -2/2. Now, if this could do it to the same unit, it would be pretty nice. At 3 costs down, give something -4/4, which would be pretty nice. But since it doesn't, you just weaken other units. And if you can't take out anything with this, it's not that great. And there's already an event that has the same cost as the same initial bit in just the blue aspect that does the same, but also heals 2 off your base, rather than having to have a situational point to potentially minus something else off by 2/2. So not great. So with set 3, we didn't get much more included, much more in terms of good effects for double blue, but we still have some pretty good ones for the first 2 sets, and this could be a good way to play Obi-Wan if you want to go for it. It's actually a valid way to play. Now, before we go into the other aspects you can get from attaching a base to Obi-Wan, first we want to go over, like I've started doing, the stuff you can get due to Obi-Wan's aspects, being Heroism and Vigilance, or the heroic side of Vigilance and the normal side of Vigilance. And like we said as well, with a base, you can get these 2 rare bases in Security Complex and Pal City. Now, Pal City makes Obi-Wan a 4/8 when it deploys, which could be pretty handy. And Security Complex can give a shield to a unit to kind of protect it. That's not a leader. And also in the heroic side, you got, this is where like most of the good units are in each of the Vigilance in both sides, be it heroic and villainy. The better units are normally in the darker light side of it. And as shown up here, you got a fair few Jedi units or Force units. Like you got Yoda here, been a very good unit. You got some good mid units, like Obi-Wan's Aether Sprite, been a good space one that we've got in this set. And that ties very well with Obi-Wan, considering it does damage to itself and to whatever unit you can heal damage off with Obi-Wan. And you've got some good big units in like Luke Skywalker and Redemption, offering a good amount of heal in their effects or restore, and also some good effects or things like Sentinel or minusing the power stuff. You also got some nice upgrades like Jedi Lightsaber, so outside of General's Blade, in Obi-Wan's aspects himself, got Jedi Lightsaber. Same stats as Obi-Wan General's Blade, being a free cost free, but also while it's a Force unit, which Obi-Wan is, and some of the most of the units are in blue and white. You give the defender -2/2 for that attack, so you can make something bigger, weaker to attacking it. They are very easier to take out or take less damage back. You also have some good events in the heroic side that have benefits either having a Force unit or just good in general. Like you got Mystic Reflection and the Forces with Me, which have effects on them. But then if you control a Force unit, you get additional effects. So Mystic Reflection allows you to give you -2 power to unit, but if you control a Force unit, give it -2 health as well. And you got Forces with Me that just on its own allows you to choose a friendly unit, give 2 experience to it, and have it attack. But if you control a Force unit, you then get to give a shield to that same unit as well. So you either give 2 experience and an attack with it, or give 2 experience, a shield, and an attack with it. And then you got Hello there being a way to kind of do what Blue's kind of focus is, of like minusing stats on units by paying for free. You can choose a unit that's been played this phase and give it -4/4 to its stats for the phase, making it either just outright taking things that are weak, or making a bigger thing easier to kill or easier to defeat by reducing its stats. And then in the non-heroic side of Blue, you've got some pretty nice cards there as well. So you've got Guardian of Wills being a nice cheap Force unit you can have for early. You've got mid-game stuff like Solaris Gauntlet and Ki-Adi-Mundi being pretty nice. Ki-Adi being a way to kind of draw more cards or put no restriction on your opponents. If they want to play multiple cards at a turn, you can get more cards. And then Solaris Gauntlet being a move around upgrades among you or your opponent's side. And you've got the Zillo Beast being a very big unit. So like how we saw with Red having Great Dragon, Blue has now a Zillo Beast, which is pretty cool. Big high cost 9 cost 10/10 unit. But when he's played, he gives all your opponents ground arena units -5 power for the phase, so makes them more weaker. And then every turn at the end of the turn, he gets to heal 5 damage from himself. You also have some nice upgrades like Entrench as well, pretty handy ones. Either to make it so he's got a weird condition where the attached unit can't attack bases, but gives that unit extra free to its stats, and only costs 2. This could be beneficial, making your units bigger to attack your opponent's units in that arena, to take him out a little bit easier, making you stronger and more bulky. Or it could be used to be put on your opponent's units when you have nothing in that arena to make it so your opponent can't attack into your base. So handy ways like that. And also, Blue is probably the best known for having lots of events that can instantly defeat units, and they can vary in restrictions and costs. So you've got the 4 costs in Takedown and Fell the Dragon here, which, like I said, cheaper events that allow you to defeat a unit, but have restrictions. So Tarkin Town can defeat a unit that's got 5 or less remaining HP. So if something's out of range, you can damage it to then put it in one range to take it down, or if it's within range, to take it out instantly. You also got Fell the Dragon, which can defeat a non-leader unit that has 5 or more power. So it could defeat not any non-leader unit, but one that has 5 or more power, being the more the bigger ones, the more hard-hitting ones, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, as we discussed, we've got Rebels Fall being a high-cost event that leads you to take out anything. So that's Vigilance. Now have a look at the next one, and that is Command. So Command, just like Vigilance, has some pretty good cards, both in the the Heroism or Vigilance side and the normal side, and it's one that's pretty good to go with Blue. Like it's even in the light side, it's also good to go with Blue, and it's a way to kind of ramp up Ramp up your resources so you can then deploy earlier with Obi-Wan. So rather than waiting until 6 resources, you can ramp so you can get there quicker to deploy them a little bit earlier. You also have the rare bases in Energy Conversion Lab or Destroy Manufactory. Now, Energy Conversion Lab could be quite handy, and with Blue partner with it, you could mitigate the low health on your base because you've got a lot of things that have restore, kind of healing on your base to kind of take away the negative side of the base. And you have Droid Manufactory, which, given that there's no coordinate focus in Obi-Wan's kind of effects, you don't really need the 2 tokens to trigger that, so it's probably not a good one to use. But for units, you've got some pretty good early ones, like Republic Tactical Officer and Sandari Peacekeeper being very good early cards. You got good mid-game ones like Bright Hope, giving you Sentinel in space, and Alea Secura, which is one of those ones that does trigger coordinate, but then with itself, Obi-Wan and Never unit can be triggered, and then basically just be a good one to take out things, take less damage back. And then big units at the end, like Home 1, being able to help build at your board and help with coordinate as well, while giving you more restore to heal from your base. You also have upgrades like Inspiring Mentor, be a nice one that you can put on your leader as well, to then give it a effect to when it attacks, giving a spirit token to a never friendly unit, and giving itself a 1/1 boost from the upgrade itself. And it's pretty nice events as well, like you got Spark Rebellion being the light sides kind of ramp in white, but then it's more restrictive than the other ramp we've got, where you need a unit to have been defeated that phase, which is easy enough to do if your opponent either attacks the one unit and defeats it, or you can ram your unit into your opponent's unit to either defeat them both or defeat yours to trigger this. So it's more situational, but can still work quite well, and is a little bit cheaper than most of them. And then reinforcement allow you to kind of spread out a board by look at the top 10 cards of your deck, and playing up to 3 units that cost in total 7 or less among them to the board for free, which is pretty nice. Then for the non-heroic side, of Command, we've got some pretty nice units here. You've got things like Colonel Yularen Cobb Vamp, and those two for good ones early. They give a nice bit of heal or board presence, like Yularen gives heal. Cobb Vamp keeps a unit on play with given effect. You also got 501st Liberator, which is a nice one because if you control a Republic unit, you can heal 3 from your base, and since Obi-Wan is one, you can play out while you've got your leader deployed, and it heal 3 damage for base, give you a nice bit of healing and a unit on board. And then you got Reinforcement Walker being more the top end of green, being a big costing unit with big stats, but when it's played or attacks, you can look at the top card of your deck, either add it to your hand that adds to your options, or discard the card you basically saw from the top of your deck to heal 3 from your base, giving that nice bit of flexibility in his options. And then like we saw Jedi's Blade, Jedi's lightsaber. You also got General's Blade here, being an upgrade, just like we've already discussed this. It's a pretty good costing upgrade. It gives pretty good stats for its cost, and gives an effect to play things cheaper anytime the Jedi unit is attached to attacks. You also have some pretty nice events, like you have Resupply being the last one here, being one that helps you to ramp. Just once you basically pay for your resources, put it in play as a resource. Really easy, pretty simple, and mostly a staple for any deck that wants a ramp. Then you have some nice ones like Commission and Timely Invention. Now, Commission is pretty cool. Well, they're both pretty cool ones because they're really cheap events at one cost, but you can also smuggle out. So you can smuggle them out later on after resourcing them to them at a higher cost, but play them later on. And Timely Invention here gives you the ability to play a unit and give it ambush for the phase, which is like ELC. You still have to pay the cost of the card, but it gives you ambush as an option for any given card. Pretty nice. You got Commission here, which allows you to look at the top 10 cards of your deck. I've found a Bounty Hunter, which aren't many in green, especially in the light side, but also an item and a transport. Now, transport is a trait that is on some of the space units, which is pretty cool to find a space unit for yourself, or find items like General's Blade or Jedi's Lightsaber and things like that. So they help you find your upgrades, which is pretty cool. You also have the 30 health bases here. Once again, these are my 2 more favorited arts of the bases. So that's Command is a pretty nice one to have with Obi-Wan, because you've got the ability to ramp to get him out quicker, and you've got some pretty powerful upgrades and units to use with him as well. Next, we have Aggression. So this is one that's more focused on the aggro side of it, with damage and pushing damage to base and damaging units in play. And like with the bases, we've got Tarkin Town and Shadow Collector Camp as your 2 options. Same health on each, but you can either use Tarkin Town to help take out something that's just out of reach, but if you can do a damage to a unit but can't finish it off, Tarkin Town can help you there. Or Shadow Collector Camp allowing you to draw a card when you deploy your leader. So pretty nice both, but then And but like we said, with Vigilance, you can kind of reduce the negative aspect of these base by having low health, by having healing on it to kind of mitigate that. You got some pretty nice units in there, like you got some good cheap ones, like the top row here. You got a pretty cheap ones you play. You got Red 3 as a space one, and you've got like Cassian, Cassian Andor, Stella Guerrera, and K2SO. Pretty good units, all nice effects, like Red 3, boosting allowing your all your heroic units to have raidaways on board. Cassian be able to smuggle out and be ready when it's smuggled, so play out if you can play them out ready if you smuggle them in. Stella Guerrera being allow you to help search your top 8 cards of your deck for a tactic when she's played or defeated by doing 2 damage to your base, which isn't that bad a cost. And considering all the removal events in blue and some pretty nice ones in red, our tactics is a good one. It's a good one to search because she's got pretty good stats and also helps you find some cards and increase your options as well. You got K2SO, a pretty nice one. Good stats, 4 cost 4/4. That when defeated either makes your opponent discard a card for that hand control aspect or do 3 damage to your opponent's base. Now when we get to the top end, that's when we have some nice units there. You got Podammer being a pretty cool one. 5 cost 6/6, and then on attack can discard up to 3 cards and then do one of basically do the effects depending on the number of cards you have discarded. You got Mace Windu being a very nice one where you can there's a 7 cost 5/7, so same stats as Vader, has ambush, and when he defeats a unit, readies himself. So you can take out a unit, either take out a lot of units on your opponent's board, or take out one of the units and then be able to swing the base after. So pretty nice one there. You also got some nice events in the Heroic Side Aggression with like Carablast and Four Calls. Four Calls being an aggressive one to be able to damage the base, whereas Carablast can help allow a unit that's damaged to do its damage to another unit plus 1 as well on top of that. It's a pretty nice one to make your damage unit kind of like fight back and just do the same damage to another unit. And then we got the non-heroic side aggression. So you got some really nice early game ones that you got Wolf, Migs Mayfield, and Saving Fangfire being nice cheaper cost units. Wolf preventing heal on bases so your opponent can't heal out, so you can kind of be aggressive to them. Migs making it so anytime either player discards a card, you can do 2 damage to one of their units, or to a unit or base. And you got Fangfire being able to play and take out upgrades, being like things like lightsabers and stuff like that, off units or like shields and experience. Then you got some bigger units like Kit Fisto and Crate Dragon being nice bigger units that have some benefits, like Kit Fisto benefiting from the coordinator to have more units on board that do damage to ground units when it swings. And then Crate Dragon making it so anytime your opponent plays a card while it's on board, you get to do damage to your opponent's base or ground units equal to the cost of the card they played. And also you got some pretty nice stuff in the events for red. But before we go to that, we got the 30 health base as well. So these are my preferred arts for it and the option you can have for a base. And you got things like Force Throw being a very nice card, and one of the reasons you might want to play red for Obi-Wan, because it's a nice little event that allows you to choose a player, make a player discard a card from hand, and then like we've seen with the other Force cards in blue, if you've got a Force unit in play, you get an additional effect of being able to damage one of your opponent's or deal damage to a unit on board equal to the cost of the discarded card. Now you can use this to either discard one of your opponent's cards and then do damage equal to whatever they discarded, so make them discard and they do damage as well. Or discard a card from your hand, maybe a high costing card, so you can specifically do a certain amount of damage to a unit on board, like taking out your opponent's leader by discarding, say, a Crate Dragon from your own hand. Pretty nice there. You also more discarding like kind of Pillage, being a card you can search for from Stella Guerrera, being a 4-cost event that allows you to choose a player, and make him discard 2 cards. And then Bomb It Wrong being a nice way to deal with these new pesky token units by choosing any arena, space or ground, and dealing 3 damage to all units in that arena. Pretty nice there. So Obi-Wan is pretty nice going aggression. It's a pretty nice way to play it. And then we got the last one, and that is Cunning. So Cunning's a pretty cool one. Is, like we said, is a jack of all trades aspect, and there's some pretty nice cards in the heroic side. Now you got some good cheap units like R2D2 and Ahsoka, being good setting units with good effects. Like Ahsoka can have ambush if your opponent's got more units than you, including Ahsoka, which is played. You got R2 as well, being a nice unit that can discard a card from your hand, then look at the top 3 cards of your deck and pick any one of them and add it to your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in a random order. And you got some good space units like the Millennium Falcons. You got 2 different ones, but remember, unique comes down to the unit plus their title, so you can have both of these on board at a given time, but you can't have the same card that's unique, so you can't have 2 of the 3 drops on board, or you can't have 2 of the 6 drops on board. But these are pretty nice because Millennium Falcon, the 3-drop one, comes in ready when it enters play, but if you want to keep it on board every turn during the regroup phase, you have to tap a resource, or pass it back to your hand. So if it's damage, you can put it back in your hand, so you can play it back out fresh as a daisy, or keep it on board if you don't by tapping one resource during the regroup phase. And you've got the Evermanian Falcon, which can be smuggled out, so it can be smuggled out for the same cost as a normal card, but if you play it from your hand, it gains ambush. So you can have a resource in to smuggle out later, or keep it in your hand so you can play it out in an ambush with it. And it's a 5/5, 6 cost unit, which is pretty cool. Then you got some higher units, like higher cost units in like Emphas Nest and Han Solo, being pretty good statted units. High cost at 7 costs, but have benefits. Like Han Solo can ambush as well, and then he's got the first shoot first effect, where if he does damage first, so he takes out a unit with damage, he doesn't take any damage back. Pretty nice there. And you also got Emphas Nest, which is a 5/7. So once again, more Vader's level stats on the 7 drop, which is cool. Has Saboteur, so it can ignore Sentinels and defeat shields. But when it's played or attacks, you can return any enemy non-leader unit that has less power than her, so it's got to be less, not equal to. So it's got to be 4 or less, unless you upgrade her, and bounce it back to the hand. Pretty nice there. And you've got some pretty good upgrades like Spark Rebellion and Bamboozle. Being pretty cool events, like Spark Rebellion allows you to literally just look at your opponent's hand, have that hand knowledge without any one card from them. And Bamboozle allows you to exhaust the unit and put any upgrade on it back to your opponent's hand. So if there are upgrades like experience or shields, they just disappear. Or if there are ones that they put on them actively, then you get it back about the hand. And you can also play this for free by discarding a Cunning card. You also have the rare bases as well, but the rare bases for yellow aren't the best. Like Benaki Arena could be pretty handy in certain situations to make a unit leader stronger than that normally is. But Jeddah City is not a great one and has very rarely been used. And then for the non-heroic side of Cunning, you've got, once again, these bases as well, the 30 health bases. These are my preferred arts. And you got some pretty nice cards in Cunning. Like you got some cheap units like Greedo, and you also got a nice little combo with Favorable Delegate and Pirate Starfighter. So Greedo's a nice cheap unit, very good power for its cost, very nice effect when it's defeated, be able to discard a top card of your deck. And if it's not an event, not a unit, so an event or a upgrade, you can deal 2 damage to a ground unit. You got Favorable Delegate and Pirate Starfighter because they got nice effects. Because Favorable Delegate is a 2-cost unit that has a 1/5 for its stats, and when he's played, you draw a card. But when he's defeated, you discard a card. So if you play him out and draw 1, and then you can play Pirate Starfighter, because Pirate Starfighter's got a unique effect where when it's played, you have to return a friendly non-leader unit to his owner's hand. So if it's the only card on board and you play it out, it's got to bounce itself. But if you play out the Delegate and draw a card, then next turn play a Starfighter, and you can then bounce the Delegate back, and it won't trigger its effect to discard a card from your hand because it's not defeated, it's just bounced back to your hand. So you can make use of that, to draw a card, and then have a way to bring out Pirate Starfighter without needing to bounce itself. Because it's a 2-cost 2/4 with raid 1, which is pretty good stats for a 2-cost. Then you got the higher cost of Fennec, being a 7-cost unit, 4/6, ambush, which is pretty nice, and when it attacks, you can deal 1 damage to a defending unit, equal to the different number of cards, different cost cards in your discard. So if you've got say a 2-cost, 3-cost, and 7-cost card in your discard, you deal 3 damage. If you got 2 2s and a 4, you deal 2 damage because you got a 2 and a 4 in there. You also got some nice upgrades in Jetpack, being a nice one that gives you temporary shield, which could be used to either protect the unit before it, so it can then be protected to go and tap base even stronger with the power boost from Jetpack, or crash into bonus units and not take damage because you lose the shield instead. And you got loads of good events in Cunning. So you got Surprise Strike, being able to attack with a unit and give it 3 power. Whaley being able to bounce anything back to your hand, back to its owner's hand. That's not a leader. Or the new one being now there are 2 of them, which pairs very well with an Obi-Wan Kenobi, because there are some pretty nice force leaders, force units in the game that are quite high costing, like we've seen Luke Skywalker, we've seen Adi-Mundi and things like that. And this is a way to bring out cheaper because you can. It's a 3-cost event, allows you to play. If you got controls just 1 unit, so it could be just your leader on board. You can play a non-vehicle unit from your hand that has the same trait, that shares a trait with the card on the card on board. So with Obi-Wan, it'd be one that would force Republic, or not sharing all of them, just Jedi in its traits, and play it out, and it costs 5 less. You can essentially pay a 7-cost on 5 resources, which is pretty cool. So this is probably a really nice way to play with Obi-Wan, because you get some really good cards from the Cunning cards, both the heroic side and the non-heroic side as well. And lastly, we've got the Heroism cards. So these are ones that are just heroic, and there's not many to kind of benefit. Like In set 1, they're mainly focusing on the Rebel trait, which Obi-Wan doesn't have, so there's not much benefit there. And in the second set, there wasn't really a big focus on it. It's just like flexible. So you got things like you got like tech. You had some focus on the Wookiees and some other cards, but there's no big focus, none outside of tech. Probably benefited in being heroic card for everyone in set 3. And in the third set, you did get some more mainly focused on Republic, but it wasn't too many that aren't just clones and stuff. So these are the ones I thought were pretty useful at the Just Heroism cards. You got the Phase 3 Clone Trooper, which is a free cost 3/2 with Ambush, so Ambush being very nice. You got Tech as well, being a card that allows you what's on board to turn your resources into a second hand by giving them more Smuggle, making their Smuggle cost 2 more than their actual cost, and then their traits that they have. And an ATTE Vanguard being a slightly lesser reinforcement walker that any heroic deck can play. It's got the same stats and cost. Can also heal damage from your base, but it has restore free, so it needs to attack. But then when defeated, it gives you 2 clone tokens, which is pretty nice. So nothing huge from the Heroism cards, but there are good options you can have to include in your deck if you want to. And then that brings it to the last part of the video, which I've started incorporating in this set series of them, being what my preferred aspects are, because I did get a lot of questions about this when I did my previous series for set 2. Government leaders, people were asking for my preferred aspects and asking to be put in. So I added this in. And these are my preferred aspect combos that I would have for Obi-Wan. I would either play him with green, so having command, because you get fantastic cards like Resupply that drop out Obi-Wan quicker. You get General's Play, which you can throw on Obi-Wan, make him a lot stronger at a 7/10, which is huge, and then start playing out things cheaper every time it swings. Very nice there. And then Reinforcement Walker being a very good card to play, that once you get to a later point in the game, you can play it. Drop multiple of them, you're either then adding more cards to have more options, or healing more from your base to make it so your opponent's having to, not able to do as much, defeat you as easily, because you're constantly healing from both blue and green. And the other way I play is probably by Cunning, because there's a lot of nice cards in there. Now you've got Spark Rebellion being a very nice card. I love my hand control. Being just look at your opponent's hand, get that hand knowledge of what they've got, and then make sure you discard whatever one you want from their hand. You got now there are 2 of them, being a very good way to kind of play out some Jedi cards cheaper. So if you just deploy Obi-Wan and have nothing else aboard, you can go now there are 2 of them and play out another Jedi cheaper, or a Republic unit, or even a Force unit out cheaper. So you can get Ki-Adi-Mundi out for free. Free resource. You can get Luke out a turn 2 turns earlier than it normally be. Things like some pretty good ways to play with that card, which is pretty nice. And you got things like FS Nest being a very nice way to just keep bouncing cards. If you thought Cantina Bouncer in double yellow was bad and annoying, then FS Nest is like a way to play it for all heroic units, which is pretty cool. So those are my 2 ways to play it. You can also play it red. Red's a really good way, and you can even play it double blue. But there's other leaders I would prefer to play double blue, and same with playing it red as well. I'd rather play other ways with red for a heroic blue leader. But for Obi-Wan, I would play it command or cunning. And then that leads us to the end of the video. So hopefully that's helped you understand the leader, about the aspects and ratios stuff, and what the options are for each different aspect, and hopefully you've understood how to build him and how to build him to suit you. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. It keeps you updated with my videos and helps out the channel greatly. And stay tuned for tomorrow as I drop the last one for the blue leaders, being understanding how to build Yoda, which is going to be one of my favorites for the set. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.